Hi, it's Kit Alowitz. Welcome to Discipline Selling Reinforcement and an assignment for you today. As always, remember that we need to be reminded oftentimes more than we need to be instructed. So this video is a chance for you to be reminded of things that you learned in the class, but maybe you're tempted not to do. The other thing to remember is that we often practice far less than we know. This also is a chance for you to practice some of the things that you committed to in the class to become more of a disciplined selling master. Discipline meaning the ability to follow through on commitments after the emotion of making that commitment is passed. Now, with that said, today's video is entitled Decision Making, and it falls within the order framework from Mahan Khalsa's Let's Get Real, Let's Not Play. Order stands for ORDER. O stands for opportunity, R stands for resources, D for decision making, that's what we're going to talk about today, E is for exact solution, and R is for results. I'd like to begin today with asking you a true or false question. True or false? Don't confuse organizational authority with buying authority. True or false? I'm going to suggest to you that's probably unequivocally true. When we decide to confuse authority that we perceive in the organization with buying authority, we fall victim to one of the classic decision-making faux pas that happens to inflict many of us. In fact, in the organizational buying decision, in the processes that your customers go through to make a decision as to whether or not to go with you or somebody else, this stage, this step, decision making can often be where the biggest time suck can happen for a number of reasons, right? You remember from the Mahan Khalsa material, in order to make the customer get to a point where they can make a decision, you have to make it okay for yes or no to be a decision. Because yes is a great decision, no is a great decision. It's just that no decision, that's also a decision, and it's a poor decision. Now, I recognize in many of your buying situations, it's either you win or you don't. And yet, how often does the customer, in a lack of their own best interest, drag things out, make the decision-making process lame, make it tedious, make it unnecessary? And you could also argue that consummate sales professionals like ourselves are stuck with unprofessional sales professionals in the past that messed up our ability to really get to the far side of a great decision. I often ask in my class, hey, if you ask a person, let's call them A, B, or C, if they're making the decision when you're talking with them, do they often say yes they are or no they don't? They say yes they are. So it becomes very inefficient to ask the person that you're working with if they make the decision. So I'm going to suggest today, I'm going to offer you just one simple thing to change in terms of your vernacular for talking with a customer when you get to this point of the business dialogue. Now remember, you're in a perfect position to do this. You've earned the right to be right where you are to be able to ask this decision-making question right now. Why? Because remember, you spent a great amount of time in in opportunity process. Opportunity is, should they do this with us? You walk them through spec. You took the 5 golden questions and you help them ascertain if they've got a problem that even makes sense addressing and getting clear on it. Not just them, but you also, because you've earned the right to be clear about what they're trying to achieve just as much as they have. That's where high courage comes into play. Next, we went after R. After you do opportunity, then you're doing R, which is resources. You're trying to get just a basic understanding of where they are with time, people, and money. So you're in a perfect position now to ask them about how they're going to make this decision. Now, one of my favorite books out there that just gives a lot of data. It's sometimes hard to execute on this methodology, the Challenger sale. But one of my favorite pieces of data in there is that in today's buying market, there is often as many or more, but on the far side, right in the middle, there's probably 5.4 decision makers that are involved in making the decision-making process. So when we fall victim to the one person we're talking to, thinking that all the decision will be made by them, or even failing and asking them, are you the decision maker? And they say yes, and we chicken out and don't have high courage and don't follow through and just assume that they're the only decision maker, we're making a mistake. So, a couple things. One, please remember, don't confuse organizational authority with buying authority. Number two, don't confuse the fact that just because you're talking to one person, that's the only person involved in the decision-making process. In fact, you might even up your game and challenge yourself that in every buying situation, and I'm suggesting whether it's even a transactional easy sale or a more complex sale, you ought to go after and challenge yourself to understand at least 5.4 decision makers, because then you're in a much better situation to help them and you make a well-informed decision about deciding to go with you or not go with you. So I have just one golden question today that I'd like you to consider adding to your repertoire. It needs to roll right off your tongue. Rather than asking, are you the decision maker? I'm asking you to consider instead having this statement right off the top of your tongue. What are the steps in your making this decision? What are the steps in you making this decision? That's it. It's as simple as that. Now, there's a whole bunch of science behind this, because when you say, what are the steps, you're diffusing any ego that they may have that they are going to answer just them. Now, they still could answer that. I'm the only decision maker. And then if you have high courage, what would you say? You'd say, I can appreciate you saying that. Thank you for telling me that you're involved in the decision. I find that most organizations who are working on this kind of decision-making process with this complexity we're talking about also involve purchasing, also involve manufacturing, also include R&D. Just bring up some other situations and see how they respond. You might as well do it, because you've got nothing to lose. Because at this point, if you take them at face value that they're the only decision maker, you are putting the possibility of you closing this sale in jeopardy. And every moment after that you work on this deal, you're in the yellow zone. You're in the yellow light zone. So take yourself out of that situation and have high courage in this situation. And whatever you're asking now, I'm asking you to replace it with, what are the steps that you will go in or go after in making this decision? It's as simple as that. So my challenge to you this week, with your practice partner, practice asking, and then ask an actual customer this week, what are the steps that you're going to use in making this decision? And see what happens. I'm Kit Alowitz. I'm with Discipline Selling, and we'll see you next time.